And what about your hunger during this time?
Well, the hunger at first didn't change at all. All I had done when going to low carb was I was simply changing what I was eating. I'd been given these lists, the green list and the red list, and et cetera. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is what I'm not supposed to be doing. I still had a house full of what I realized was primarily junk at the time, and I didn't want to throw it all away. So the way I got started was very gradually. I ran down all of the bad old food, the bread and the noodles and so on. But I knew enough now to know not to buy any more. So nothing really went to waste. I just ran it down. I would say goodbye to each of these individual things that I knew I was just not going to be able to have anymore. That whole transition period took maybe 4 to 6 weeks. And it was during that time that I guess I had the opportunity, I gave myself the opportunity to really learn what it is that I need to be eating in its place, what things to be looking for in the supermarket. I'm wandering down a few aisles I've never been down before. I'm stopping and looking at food labels on everything to see how many carbs per 100 grams are on the label. And if there's anything higher than X amount, I'd set myself this limit. Then it stays on the shelf. And that was my approach. The hunger didn't really start to noticeably correct itself for about 3 or 4 months. So even in the beginning, I'm having multiple steaks or chicken breasts per meal because I was just that hungry. But by about 3 or 4 months in, sort of early 2016, I noticed I was going through my backpack one day and I used to take a banana to work every day for morning tea. And I'm cleaning out my backpack one day and there's this rotten banana at the bottom of the backpack. It was horrible, obviously. And I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here? And that's when I realized, hey, I haven't been snacking for weeks and I haven't even noticed. I'm just not so hungry that I need to snack a morning or afternoon tea anymore. And the next step after that was at lunchtimes, there was this cafeteria buffet that I would go to. And I would always have 2 big plates of whatever they had on offer. It was, I knew enough to avoid things like the rice and that sort of thing. And it would just be meat and veg primarily. But it would still be these 2 big plates of whatever meat and veg was going. And I remember very clearly the day when I'd had 1 plate and just out of habit, I went up to get plate number 2 and then I just sort of sat back down as I realized, hey, I don't actually feel like another plate anymore. I'm okay. I'm not hungry, to such an extent that I need to be eating as much as I was before. So it was a very gradual thing for me with the hunger, but it was at that point at the cafeteria that day that I realized, hey, this is where low carb can be reconciled with one key aspect of that dietary advice. It's not so much necessarily that just eating less is wrong, but when that's all you say, that's all that people take on board with that idea. They assume that when it comes to food and losing weight, that it's purely and simply about quantity. And there's no regard at all for the quality of what it is that we eat. But I'd changed the quality of what I was eating. I'd gone to low carb, and that in turn, in effect, almost enabled me to eat less. And so at that point, it just becomes this feedback loop, if you like. And you could argue, maybe it's a chicken and egg kind of situation. Oh, well, you lost weight on low carb because you were eating less. Well, multiple steaks and multiple chicken breasts for starters, those first few months, really anybody's idea of eating less. I was eating a lot, but it was just the carbs that I got rid of for starters. And it was then just over a very gradual period of several months that the hunger eventually just started to take care of itself. And it felt great.
Oh, I know. I think we use an analogy called the woodshed. And basically when your hunger stops, your woodshed is open. So your woodshed, for those listeners who haven't listened to our earlier episodes, is your stored fat, which for many of us has been locked away because of high insulin levels, like a padlock. And once you lower the insulin, you can open your shed and access that fat stores, which means that you can then go periods without needing fuel because your body has its ability to draw on its own supplies. And that describes exactly what happened to you, Brendan.
Yeah, exactly right. The supplies were always there. The body just wasn't able to access them, as you say. So, get rid of the carbs from the diet. That reduces the insulin to a point where the body actually recognizes what it already has. And, it becomes accustomed to this idea that, hey, I can actually be burning fat. And when we think about, what we want to do when we want to lose weight, it is fat that we want to lose. So low carb just absolutely fits the bill as a weight loss diet because it removes that barrier to fat burning that we would otherwise all have.
Absolutely. And I often joke with my patients and I'll say, you can lose 10 kilos. I'll just chop a leg off. But that's not what we want to do. We don't want to just lose the number on the scales. It's about the fat loss, not any other loss. And I think for a lot of people too, they do extreme things in the quest of getting lower numbers that can result in harm, with very severe low-calorie diets that end up causing protein loss and muscle mass loss. And, those things, particularly for older people, and, when I'm talking older, I'm talking sort of 50 plus, it's really important to prioritize your protein.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm still in my 40s, but it's something I am mindful of that as I'm eating less over time because I'm not getting so hungry so easily. I haven't had breakfast now for about 4 years. And my lunches, sometimes I won't even have any. I didn't have any lunch yesterday. All I had was dinner yesterday. But it's usually a small lunch and then my main meal is dinner. So I'm clearly eating so much less now than I ever was before. But as you say, protein is one of those things that we can't afford to neglect and let go of. So over time, I've realized that as I'm eating less, I can't afford to let the protein go so low. So, I'm still making sure that I get the protein sources, the meats primarily, some dairy as well, so that the muscle mass is retained, one hopes.